Hey everyone, welcome to another lecture. It's our 15th lecture and in this lecture we will discuss about drugs. So the main objectives of today's lectures include drugs, medicinal drugs as well as misused drugs. We will try to cover these three topics in this lecture. Firstly, we will discuss that what are drugs. So drugs are defined as any substance that is taken into the body and that modifies or affects the chemical reactions in the body. So any type of substance that is taken into the body and that modifies or affects the chemical reactions of the body is known as drug. As we know that drugs are used in the medical care, they relieve the mild pains and are very helpful to us. But sometimes some people misuse the drugs, and misusing of the drug can cause harm to themselves as well as it can also cause harm to the people around them. What is meant by misused drugs? So misusing drug means a person is over consuming the recommended amount of the drug. So overconsumption of a drug leads to the misusing of the drug and it can cause harm to the person who is taking it and it can also cause harm to the persons around him. What are the medicinal drugs? Medicinal drugs means the medical drugs and these are the drugs that are used to prevent or treat the diseases. So if a person is taking the drugs into the body that are used for the prevention or treatment of the diseases, so these drugs are known as medicinal drugs. Antibiotics are the medicinal drugs and they attack the bacteria in a variety of ways. Antibiotics disrupt the production of the cell wall. As we know that the cell wall of the bacteria is made up of peptidoglycan and antibiotics disrupt the production of the peptidoglycan and in this way they prevent the production of cell wall and then they prevent the bacteria from reproducing or even cause them to burst open. Antibiotics also interfere with the protein synthesis and then they prevent the bacterial growth. So these are the variety of ways in which the antibiotics attacks the bacteria. Viruses and other non-bacterial pathogens are unaffected by the antibiotics. So which remain unaffected by the use of antibiotics? These include viruses as well as the other non-bacterial pathogens. Why they remain unaffected by the use of antibiotics? Because they do not have the bacterial features. That's why viruses and other non-bacterial pathogens are not affected by the use of antibiotics. The first antibiotic which was discovered is penicillin. It is made by the fungus Penicillium and penicillin also kills the bacteria by preventing the production of peptidoglycan that forms the cell wall. As we know that the cell wall of the bacteria is made up of peptidoglycan and penicillin kills the bacteria by preventing the production of peptidoglycan and then the cell continues to grow without dividing or developing a new cell wall, or the wall gets weaker and it ruptures, which is known as lysis. So these are the two ways in which penicillin kills the bacteria. Firstly, it prevents the production of peptidoglycan and then the cell continues to grow without dividing or developing a new cell wall, or the wall gets weaker and it ruptures. So in this diagram we can see that here is a bacteria. When a penicillin attacks on the bacteria, it prevents the production of peptidoglycan that forms the cell wall of the bacteria and later it results in the rupture or lysis of the wall of the cell. In this way, penicillin attacks on the bacteria or it kills the bacteria. Now we will discuss about the antibiotic resistance. So if a course of antibiotic is not completed, some of the bacteria it is being used to destroy will not be killed but will have been exposed to the drug. So if a person is taking antibiotics and he is not completed the course of antibiotics, then some of the bacteria it is being used to destroy will not be killed but will have been exposed to that type of drug. So some of the survivors may be drug resistant mutant. When they reproduce, all their offsprings will have the drug resistance. So the antibiotic will become less effective, and this is known as antibiotic resistance. So this diagram is showing the genetic mutation causes the drug resistance. Here we can see the non-resistance bacteria exist. Bacteria multiplies by the billions and a few of these bacteria will mutate. And here we can see the mutation in DNA that is shown by the red color. So some mutations make the bacterium drug resistant, and in the presence of drugs, only drug resistance bacteria survive. As we can see in this diagram, all of the bacteria are killed out, but only the drug resistance bacteria are surviving. Then drug resistance bacteria multiply and thrive. So this whole process is showing the genetic mutation causes the drug resistance. What are MRSA? So MRSA is known as the methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. It is a type of bacteria that has developed resistance to a number of widely used antibiotics. So MRSA is a bacteria and it has developed resistance to the number of widely used antibiotics. Development of this can be minimized by using antibiotics only when essential and ensuring that treatment is completed. So, we can minimize the development of MRSA by using the antibiotics only when the use of antibiotic is essential and when the treatment is completed and it is ensured that treatment is completed. And in this way, we can minimize the development of MRSA. What are MRSA? MRSA is the methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus and it is a type of bacteria that has developed resistance to a number of antibiotics. Now we will discuss that antibiotics and viral diseases. What is the link between antibiotics and viral diseases? As we know that antibiotics do not work against viruses. Why they do not have worked against viruses? Because viruses do not have the cell wall, so they remain unaffected or unharmed by the use of antibiotics. Many antibiotics kill the bacteria by damaging their cell walls. Cell wall of the bacteria is made up of peptidoglycan and antibiotics attacks on the peptidoglycan and in this way they kill the bacteria by damaging their cell walls. But the viruses do not have the cell wall, so they remain unharmed by the use of antibiotics. It is difficult to develop the drugs that kill the viruses without damaging the body's tissue. Now we will discuss the misused drugs. It is an important topic. As we have discussed that what is known as misusing of the drug. So if a person is over consuming the recommended amount of a drug, it is known as the misusing of the drug. So some drugs are often misused and some example of these are alcohol, heroin and tobacco smoke. So these are the commonly misused drugs, and these can lead to the harmful effects on the humans. Firstly, we will discuss the effect of abuse of heroin. As we know that heroin is a powerful depressant. It is a narcotic producing a dream-like feeling of relaxation and reducing the severe pain. But it is very addictive, leading to the dependency or addiction. Withdrawal symptoms can be very unpleasant, involving the cramps, sleeplessness, violent vomiting, sweating, and hallucinations. So, what are the effects of overdosing of the heroin? These include cramps, sleeplessness, violent vomiting, sweating, and hallucinations. The addiction of heroin also creates the financial problems. It leads to the family breakdown, criminal activity, and sexual promiscuity. This diagram is showing the short-term effect of heroin on central nervous system, mouth, skin, respiratory, and muscular. Short-term effects of heroin on the brain causes the euphoria, alternative alert, and drowsy state. In the mouth, it can cause the dryness. Skin become warm as well as flushing. It also disturbs the respiratory system of the body, and it results in the slowed breathing. So the short-term effect of heroin also causes the muscular weakness. That's why we should not consume the heroin. Now we will discuss about the effects of excessive consumption of alcohol. So in small amounts, alcohol can relax the body and creates a sense of well-being. Alcohol is also a depressant like heroin. So larger amounts slow down the transmission of electrical impulses in the brain. As we know that transmission of electrical impulses in the brain is important for the coordination mechanism of the body. So if the transmission of electrical impulses in the brain is disturbed, then the reactions of the body become depressed and coordination is impaired. So the recent judgments become difficult and mood swings involving the violence can result. Increased reaction time makes the driving and handling machinery dangerous. Poor judgments may lead to the criminal activity as well as the sexual promiscuity. Long-term excessive drinking can lead to the addiction or alcoholism. That's why the long-term excessive use of the alcohol should be avoided. So if a person is consuming alcohol, then it can lead to the financial difficulties and family problems. As the liver removes alcohol from the body, heavy drinking can also lead to the liver damage such as cirrhosis. So if a person is drinking alcohol for a longer period of time, then it can also result into the liver damage or cirrhosis. Overdrinking or overuse of the alcohol can also cause the brain damage, peptic ulcers in the stomach, and obesity. So these are all the effects of overconsumption of alcohol. Drinking during pregnancy can damage the fetus. It increases the risk of miscarriage or premature birth, and it also reduces the average birth weight. So if a woman drinks alcohol during her pregnancy, it can cause damage to the fetus and it also increases the risk of miscarriages or premature birth, and it also reduces the average birth weight of the fetus. This diagram is showing the effects of overconsumption of alcohol. It can cause effects on the central nervous system, personality damage. It can also disrupt the sleep cycle, can cause effects on the skin, lungs, liver, kidneys, digestive system. It can also lead to the harmful effect on our bones and joints, heart, blood and immune system. It can also affect our nutrition and it can also result in the abnormal functioning of sexual characteristics of human because it disrupts the sexual functioning. So these are all the effects of the overconsumption of alcohol. That's why the overconsumption of alcohol should be avoided. Now we will discuss about the tobacco smoke. Tobacco smoke is also very dangerous. It can also lead to the harmful effects in the body because tobacco smoke contains a lot of bad chemicals and substances. So these bad chemicals and substances that are present in the tobacco smoke leads to the harmful effect in the body. These chemical or substances include carbon monoxide, nicotine and tar. Carbon monoxide is harmful for the body because it binds to the hemoglobin in red blood cells. Then it hinders the oxygen transport. Nicotine causes the addiction as well as tar causes the cancer. So if a person is smoking tobacco, oxygen transport is prevented in his body. Tobacco smoke also causes addiction and there is also a risk of developing cancer in a person who is smoking tobacco. So smoking has been proven to be linked to the So if a person is smoking tobacco for a longer period of time, there are chances of developing chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases which are known as COPD, lung cancer and coronary heart diseases. Now we will discuss about the performance enhancing hormones. So the performance enhancing hormones include the testosterone. What are testosterone? As we all know that the testosterone are made in the testes of males and is responsible for promoting the male primary and secondary sexual characteristics. So which hormone is responsible for the primary and secondary sexual characteristics of male? This hormone is testosterone. So taking the testosterone supplements known as doping. So doping is a phenomena of taking the supplements of testosterone and it leads to increased muscle and bone mass. And it also enhances a sports person's performance. That's why it is known as performance enhancing hormones because taking the supplements of testosterone enhances a sport person's performance. How testosterones are used in sports? As we have discussed earlier that testosterone is an appealing drug for the athletes. Why it is appealing? Because it promotes the muscle building and can give the athlete faster recovery times. So in athletes, if they use testosterone, it promotes the muscle building and also gives the faster recovery times. Alcoholic steroids are synthetic variations of testosterone. In most sports, the use of testosterone is banned. So anabolic steroids are the synthetic variation of testosterone and in most persons the use of the testosterone is banned. What are anabolic steroids? Anabolic steroids are the synthetic derivations of testosterone. They affect the protein metabolism, they increase the muscle development and also reduce the body fat. So the use of anabolic steroids results in the protein metabolism, enhancing the muscle development and reducing the body fat. And they also result in enhancing performance of the athletes. So what are the serious long-term effects of the use of anabolic steroids? So if a person is using the anabolic steroids for longer periods of time, then it results in the sterility. And if a woman is overtaking the anabolic steroids for a longer period of time, then it results in the masculinization in the woman, and it can also cause the liver and kidney malfunction. Liver and kidney malfunction means the normal function of liver as well as the normal function of kidney is disrupted. So the long-term effects of taking the anabolic steroids include sterility, masculinization in women, and liver and kidney malfunction. So that's all about today's lecture. In this lecture, we discussed about drugs. We also discussed about medicinal drugs, which include antibiotics, and we discussed that how antibiotics attacks the bacteria. We also discussed about the firstly discovered antibiotic, that is penicillin. We discussed the whole mechanism of penicillin, that how it attacks on the bacteria. We also discussed about misused drugs, misusing of heroin, alcohol and tobacco smoke. And we also discussed about performance enhancing hormone, that is the testosterone. I hope this lecture helped you to have an brief overview of drugs. Thank you so much.